first of the two secret codes I want to teach you today has to do with indicating a playing card. Now you have to have a friend. That's the first requirement in order to perform this trick. And you need some playing cards. Now, I'm not actually going to perform the trick for you as I normally would with other tricks that I teach. But what I'm going to do is just explain the code to you. Now you notice I have a layout of cards here. And you'll notice it's a variety of different cards. Now here's how this code works. The person who's your friend stays in the room, and you have a group of friends that you're performing for your audience. And you, as the magician, step out of the room. While you're out of the room, your assistant, we'll just call your person that's in with you, the assistant asks somebody to just point to a card. So everybody in the room sees this card. Now, when you come back in, your assistant will be able to communicate to you which card you select. So here's how it works. You notice that this layout, I have 8 cards. So that is very significant for this trick. And you can alter it however you like, but I'm just happen to be using 8. Now, if you notice here in this corner, I have an 8 of spades. And that's the secret to this trick. Now what the assistant does, and you'll have to practice with the assistant who's in on this, they're going to point to cards and say, is this the card? Is this the card? As long as they're not pointing to the 8, then you know it's not their card. Or maybe at this point, it doesn't really matter. It depends on how you do this. But once they point to the 8, what they're going to do is, let's say the spectator selected the Jack of Diamonds. Well, when the spectator asks you, is this the card? They're going to point to this spade right here, which indicates this position here. So all the way through, this one would indicate this one would indicate this one here, and so on. So at some point, you have designated with your assistant which card they're going to point to that will indicate the layout. So if they point to here, then you know it was the 8 of spades, and then you can say that's their card. Or at some point they'll touch here and they'll say it's this one, and they'll just keep saying, is this the card? You keep saying no until if they touched here, you know it's this card. And you'll be able to perform a fun mind reading trick for a group of people with the help of a friend. Here's the second of 2 secret codes that I want to teach you. Again, you're going to need an assistant, somebody who's in on this, somebody you've worked with and who knows the secret. Now, I happen to have a bunch of objects here on the table. And in fact, this is very similar to the card trick in that you as the magician will leave the room, and then your assistant will ask somebody from the crowd to touch one of the objects. Just secretly touch it so the magician who's out of the room won't know what it is. So I'm just going to explain the code because without actually performing it for an audience and having a friend, I don't have a lot of friends, so that's the reason why I have to teach you the trick in this manner. But as you can see, we have several objects. Now you can be in a room where you have furniture. You can do this on a big scale with pictures on the wall, objects on tables, things like that. But the name of this trick is called dark magic or black magic. And therein lies the secret to this particular mentalism effect. So here's what happens. You step out of the room, and if the spectator points to an object, let's say they point to the tape here. The magician, you have no idea at this point what the object is that was selected, and then your assistant will start to point to various objects in the room. Now, the secret is, when your spectator points to an object that is black, then you know that the very next object that he or she touches will be the object. So, you as the magician, if they selected the tape, at this point you come back in the room, you don't know, your assistant comes in and just says, was it this one? You say no. Was it this one? You say no. Was it this one? You say no. Your assistant just touched the black object or pointed to the black object. The next object they point to, the tape, will be the object that the spectator selected. Now, this is one of those tricks that you can repeat. Normally, I wouldn't recommend that you do a trick twice, but this is one that astounds people because there's all kinds of things people start to look for. They start counting, like maybe the third item that you pointed to is the one that the assistant pointed to is the one that was selected, or people come up with all kinds of theories. But it's very simple. Whatever they point to that's black, the next object will be their selected object.